Let's head to the US now, where a Democratic Party congressman has urged President Biden to make way for another candidate in November's presidential election. Lloyd Doggett is the first to call publicly for Mr. Biden to withdraw because of his poor performance in televised debate with Donald Trump last week. Here's more from Nomia Iqbal, who's in Washington.
Huge pressure on President Biden following the debate performance, and most Democrats have expressed their concern privately, but now we're seeing some go public. You have the sitting congressman, Mr. Doggett, who has called on President Biden to resign. Nancy Pelosi, former U.S. Speaker of the House, a very close friend of President Biden, didn't go so far as to make that call, but she did say that he should take a mental and fitness health test, but also said that Donald Trump should do the same. Then you have Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn is an incredibly influential member of the Democratic Party, incredibly close to President Biden. And he has said that if it isn't Joe Biden, he will vote for Vice President Harris. And I think just the fact that he's even saying that rather than just completely saying, nope, there's no other option but Mr. Biden is telling in of itself. Whether or not that pressure builds, we'll see. Mr. Biden is due to do an interview later this week with an American network, the first time he'll be sitting down following that debate performance. And there's no doubt he'll be asked many, many questions. But ultimately, if he is going to be replaced, he has to stand down. He has to resign. And his inner circle, which is made up of his wife, the First Lady, his son, Hunter Biden, and many other members of his family and other close Democrats, have said that the president has no intention of standing down.
Oh, well, let's stay with news in the US and politics, because the sentencing of Donald Trump for falsifying business records has been postponed until September after the Supreme Court ruled the former president has partial immunity. Lawyers for the former president asked for the chance to argue he should not have been prosecuted, given some evidence they say came from his time in office. Prosecutors did not object, though they said the argument was entirely without merit. Mr. Trump was convicted of paying hush money to a porn actress as he campaigned in 2016. The Supreme Court on Monday ruled presidents enjoy immunity from prosecution for official acts. Well, Thad Kauser is Professor of Political Science from the University of California, San Diego. He says the speculation surrounding the president and whether this is President Biden, of course, and whether he will run or not is getting more intense.
Well, this has really moved from just something that you read about in a column every few weeks to the defining conversation of every Democrat in America right now, and the wall-to-wall headlines that you see on the news. And I think, as you just heard with Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, two of President Biden's strongest allies, raising the question that has kind of broken down this wall of certainty around the Biden nomination that leading Democrats have built, and it's really leaving this question up for grabs over the next several days.
At the moment, though, he's showing no signs of listening to those voices. He has been saying that his poor performance in that debate was down to jet lag. He wasn't very smart for travelling around the world a few times before the debate, saying he didn't listen to his staff. What's the feeling and the mood, you know, in terms of what polls are saying about what this means since that debate, that televised debate?
Well, we haven't seen any change in the polls so far. And that's actually something that the Biden advisors and campaign team have been trumpeting. They've been saying, look, this race is just kind of locked in at a deadlock. Most Americans have made up their minds. It's all going to be a fight for who can mobilize their base. Trust us. And so the polls right now are making President Biden's point for him. But we may see, as we see this continuing drumbeat of conversation about his debate performance, we may see him decline. The other thing that these polls taken since the debate are beginning to show is that all of the candidates who've been mentioned as potential replacements from Vice President Kamala Harris to Midwestern Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Andy Beshear, other governors, they're all polling behind Joe Biden. They're not closing the gap on Donald Trump. Some of them are polling as far as 5 points behind. That's also helping Joe Biden and his team make their case to stick with him.
OK. Interesting. Before we let you go, let's get your take on the New York judge delaying Donald Trump's sentencing until September. Your thoughts on that and its impact?
Well, this really takes this event, which will be, at least 24 hours of bad news for Donald Trump in the news cycle, though it probably won't send him to prison because he'll go out on bail if he appeals it if he's sent to prison. It takes it from one politically strategic moment, the eve of the Republican National Convention, which is his coronation. It removes that, but that puts it in another key strategic moment, right? Mid-September is when debates really ramp up. This will be about 6 weeks before the presidential contest, and it'll give him more bad news that he has to overcome during that time if he is sentenced for these 34 felony counts.
That was Thad Kouser, Professor of Political Science from the University of California in San Diego.